In ENGV 311, we did linguistics, focusing mainly on semantics and pragmatics. What is semantics? Semantics is the study of language focusing mainly on the meaning of words and connotation. Meaning can be in different forms. We can have meaning can be what the speaker is referring to, or what the speaker believes to be referring to, or what the hearer believes that the speaker is referring to. And then we have semantic relationships. In semantic relationships, we have the signified, signifier, and the referent. The signified is the mental image, the signifier is the sound image, and the referent is the physical object of what we are talking about. And then, for example, we can use the word door. Door, after hearing the word door, your mind creates a mental image of what a door actually looks like. And then for signifier, the sound image, we can associate, like our brains can associate the sound of the door opening and closing after hearing the word door. And then the referent is the actual picture of a door that we can see with our naked eyes. And then we have the speaker reference and the linguistic reference. The speaker reference is more informal compared to the linguistic reference. For example, if we say, "Here comes the king," in speaker reference, it doesn't necessarily mean that the king is coming. It means that the person that we are referring to as the king is either has similar characteristics or portrays himself in such a way that we call him a king, or we are just being sarcastic. And then for linguistic reference, it actually means that it's the exact reference of the word, like it's the real reference of the word. If we say the king is coming, then it actually means that a real king is coming. And then we have denotation and connotation. Denotation is the meaning of a word from a dictionary. It's the actual meaning of a word from the dictionary. So, for example, if we say she is hot, hot means that something is in high temperatures, like it's hot, it's burning. So, if we say she's hot, we can say that she is sick. And then for connotation is feelings associated with the word, the feelings or ideas associated with the word. And then if we say she is hot, it can actually mean that the person is angry or very pretty. And then we have positive, negative, and neutral connotation. For positive connotation, we can say she's interested, and then for neutral, we can say she's nosy, and then for negative, we can say she is questioning. And then what else do we have? We have collocation. Collocation is the relationship between words that are usually used together, like hot dog, Snow White. And then we have stylistic variation. Stylistic variation, we have formal, standard, and informal. And then we have 5 variables to determine register. We have the field, the tenor, the mode, context, and function. And so for the field is the subject of the matter that we have to check if we are in a situation. And then the second one is the tenor which determines like the relationship between the speakers, if they are friends, colleagues, siblings, or whatever. And then the mode is the channel used to communicate. It can either be face to face, or it can be through a cell phone call or texting. And then for context is the place and situation that is going on. And then for function is the purpose of the communication. So you have to check these 5 variables before speaking to someone. You have to firstly know if the conversation is formal, standard, or informal, and then apply the 5 variables. And then we have, why do we do semantic feature analysis? As to identify the key features associated with the words, to highlight important information, and then to differentiate the groups of words. And then we have semantic roles. Semantic roles, there are words that describe the roles of something in a sentence. For example, I am bathing. I am bathing. I am the agent. Okay, we have agent, beneficiary, patient, location, source, goal, instrument. Yes, so the agent is the one performing the action. It's called the agent, and then the theme is the one who undergoes the action, and then the beneficiary is the one who benefits from the action being performed, and then the experiencer, I left the experiencer out, and then the experiencer is the one who perceives something, and then what the instrument is a tool that we use to perform the action, and then the source is where the action originates from, so we use the word from to say, and then goal is the purpose of the action, like where the action is directed to. And then did I leave something? Okay, and then we have lexical relations, we have synonyms. Synonyms are words that have different spellings but have similar meanings. And then we have 4 dimensions of synonyms. We have dialectical, stylistic, collocational, and what the last one? Emotive. Okay, for dialect we have for dialectical we have sweets and candy. The other one is American. The other one is British. And then for stylistic is the style that we choose to use. We can have insane and crazy. And then for collocational we have rancid and idle. And then for emotive we have statesman and politician. And then for absolute synonym is when 2 or more words mean the same thing and they are semantically equal. For example, we have almost and nearly. And then for near synonym, words that are more or less the same. And then we have lies and untruth. And then we have antonyms. Antonyms are words that denote the opposite of the other. If we have happy, we have sad. And then we have gradable. We have gradable antonyms. We have non-gradable. We have reversible and relation. Gradable as actually being able to compare that my hair is long and then your hair is longer than mine. Non-gradable is my mother is dead and then your mother cannot be deader. And then we have reverse it actually involves movement. If I go up, you go down. If you push, I pull. And then we have relation. Relation is viewing from 2 viewpoints. Is from 2 viewpoints. So if I'm selling, you are buying. And then we have polysemy. Polysemy is when a word has more than one meaning. For example, for the word dress, we have a dress, which is a piece of cloth that ladies wear, and then to dress is actually putting on clothes, and then to dress a salad is actually putting a salad dressing on top of it. And then we have hyponyms, a word of more specific meaning than general, superordinate. And then we have homonyms. Homonyms are words that are spelled and sound the same but have different meanings. For example, we can have bank and bank. We have a bank where we actually collect money from, and then we have a bank which is the river bank. And then we have homophones. Homophones are the words that sound the same but are spelled differently and mean different things. For example, we have new and new. There's new of I bought a brand new pair of shoes and then I knew this information before I came here. And then we have prototypes, a word that closely represents a category that it belongs to. For example, we can have vegetables on top and then under we have beetroot, broccoli. And then we have metonyms. Metonyms are words that are used to replace words that are closely associated with them. And then we have pragmatics. Pragmatics is the principle the principle of language that actually explains a deeper meaning of words. And then we have factors to consider when communicating, which is the Grace's maximum. And then we have the quantity, quality, relation, and manner. And then for quantity is saying everything in detail for a person to easily understand. And then the quality, you should be honest. And then relation, you should be relevant. And then manner, you should be logical, clear, and say in short sentences. And then we have 3 types of implicature. We have conversational implicature, scalar implicature, and conventional implicature. And then we have presupposition, assumptions that are made beforehand after seeing the sentence. For example, if we say she is calmer, the presupposition would be she was angry. And then to test for presupposition is if we negate the first sentence, like that she is calmer. If we negate it, then the presupposition remains true. If it doesn't remain true, then it means there is constancy under negation. And then we have entailment. Entailment is a relationship that applies between 2 sentences, and then the truth of the other implies the truth of the other. So we have statement A that entails statement B. So if we check statement A, and then statement A should entail statement B to be true. It means statement B depends on statement A to be true. And then we have context and deixis. Didactic expressions are meaningful in context. And then we have spatial deixis, which is the place. And then we have temporal deixis, which is time. And then we have person deixis, which is the pronouns. And then we have anaphoric reference and cataphoric. And then anaphoric reference is when the subject is already introduced in the sentence. And then cataphoric is when the subject is delayed in the sentence. And then we have 2 types of utterances. We have performative utterances and constative utterances. And then 3 types of conditionals. We have first conditionals, second conditionals, and third conditionals. First conditionals is when something is possible, and then second conditional is something when something is impossible or when we imagine it. And then third conditional is when something has already happened and then we wished for it to have happened differently. And then we have the book Disgrace by J.M. Coetzee, which was written in the post-colonization. And then it shows us how power was abused by a man called David Lurie. And then the themes in the book, we have father and daughter relationship, animal treatment, and then the symbols also we have animals, Lucy, Petros, Pollux, and then we have literary lenses that we can see from Disgrace. We have mostly that I can associate with it is feminism. And then the short stories that we did, The Happy Prince, we can also apply feminism. The Door on the Wall can be new criticism. And then The Bath is psychoanalysis, the imaginary. And then The People Before is post-colonization. And then the self-directed learning, so you have to identify your learning needs and then set your goals, and then identify the resources that you will need, and then determine the strategies to help you achieve the goal, evaluate the process whether you are on the right track or not. So for self-directed learning, it's actually teaching learners how to read and know the information in the book. So you have to know your weaknesses before actually achieving the goal. You should know where you are struggling and then gather the resources that you need that can actually help you to get the information, and then see if there's progress, and always check for progress to see if you're actually going in the right way. And then if it's not working for you, it means that you should actually change the style, and find the one that works better for you. Time is up.